If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning, Philly. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. We're going to be chatting with him about some of the surprises that we've seen from the first 2 months of the season. We're going to dive in on a few games for Tuesday, and we're going to talk about the stink of stink that is the Rockies, who is currently on pace for a 27-135 record. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you'll find 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Everything today is brought to you by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they do a tremendous job of making sure that bettors are able to always access their funds for all gambling-related transactions. When you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize the promo code GREG, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Monday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the Rowdy recap.
Now, do note, I have to record this before the show cashing out. I filled in on Memorial Day, so I'm not going to have as many of the late results out west, but we've got all the games out east squared away with the Kansas City Royals getting lambasted by the Cincinnati Reds, this by kind of 7-4. And for the Royals, this has been one of the top under teams in all baseball thus far this season, as they have played darn near 2/3 of their games to the under. They're currently at 18 overs, 35 unders, and a push, actually 19, with this over going through. As for the Cincinnati Reds, Nick Martinez, 3 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings. He did allow a home run to Salvador Perez, 4th home run season. He's had a miserable season, and this was miserable for Michael Lorenzen, giving up 6 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a home run. Going deep, you had Tyler Stevenson get his 2nd home run of the campaign. You had Anel Zerpa and Steven Cruz both to provide a scoreless inning, and then Mr. Sisk, Evan Sisk, he comes in for 2 innings. He allows a run in for the Cincinnati Reds. He did have a run given up by Emilio Pagan in an inning, but Tony Santillan scoreless inning to be able to get the job done. For the Colorado Rockies, as I mentioned, 9-45, 3-1. They lose to the Chicago Cubs as all but 6 of their 45 losses by multiple runs. And hey, the Rockies have actually been a good under team. 22 overs, 31 unders, and a push, as they had absolutely nothing going on here. You had Mickey Moniak be able to get his 5th home run season off of James Taillon, and that was it. 6 1/3 innings for Taillon, gives up that 1 run. Caleb Theobar, Ryan Presley, they both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Drew Pomeranz out of the bullpen scoreless, and Daniel Palencia a scoreless inning in. For the Cubs, not a lot doing off of Mr. Carson Palmquist. He allows 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, an unearned run in 2 innings given up by Juan Mejia and Zach Ognos, a scoreless inning, but Cubs do find a way to persevere. They get the job done, as the Cubs have actually been your top over team in all baseball. 32 overs, 18 unders, and 4 pushes. A team has been pretty rock solid to the over as well. That would be the St. Louis Cardinals, though. Things were underwhelming for them on Monday. 5-2, they lose to the Baltimore Orioles. Just were really unable to get to Mr. Charlie Morton, his first win of the season. Lost 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to Pedro Pajas, his 4th home run season, and for Eric Fetty, he gets a whopped. 5 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, 3 of which were earned, as Dylan Carlson gets his 2nd home run of the season. Anthony Dominguez, Junior Cano, Felix Bautista all end a scoreless inning, and for St. Louis, you've got Matt Savanson along with John King and Gordon Garcifo all end a scoreless inning. You were able to get a lot of scoreless innings out in New York, as the Mets, they take to the Chicago White Sox by a count of 2-1, as Francisco Lindor is able to walk this thing off. He was able to hit a walk-off sac fly, as for Adrian, don't call him Doogie Howser. Another good start. Now 12 scoreless innings for him in a White Sox uniform. You go 6 scoreless here. You go with Brady Iser from there to be able to give you a scoreless inning, but Cam Bouger allows a run and 2 outs out of the bullpen, and Steven Wilson, he goes for 2 outs out of the bullpen. He allows a run for the White Sox. 0 of 11 with men in scoring position as Clay Holmes, 1 run allowed over the course of 5 2/3 innings, dodged some bullets as lots of walks given out by the Mets. You had Jose Buto along with Oscar Brazoban combined for 2 scoreless innings. You had Joey Castillo giving out of the bullpen, and Edwin Diaz scoreless inning to be able to pick up the W. And then for the Rangers, they're your top under team in all of baseball. 17 overs, 37 unders, and a push, and they fall to the Blue Jays by a count of 2-1. Another good Jacob deGrom start completely squandered. 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 1/3 innings. Did allow a home run to Dalton Varsho, 8th home run season by Kevin Gausman. Solo home run allowed over the course of 8 innings as Wyatt Langford gets his 10th home run of the campaign. Jeff Hoffman, a scoreless inning from there. And for the Texas Rangers, Hobie Milner, 2 scoreless innings. You had Jacob Webb give you a power outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Cole Winn was able to get his own form of a win with a scoreless inning of his own. The Milwaukee Brewers take the Boston Red Sox. 3 straight losses now for the Red Sox. 3-2 the final as Garrett Crochet gives up 2 runs in 6 2/3 innings with 11 punch-outs. Did allow a home run along the way to Jackson Chourio, 8th home run season. And Chad Patrick not long for this game for the Brewers, but 4 2/3 innings scoreless. The El Turn It Up Hall, 1 run allowed over the course of 2 1/3 innings. Abner Uribe scoreless inning, and Trevor McGill allows a run in an inning, but enough to be able to get the job done. And for Boston, you also had Garrett Woodlock give up a run in 1 1/3 innings. You had the Detroit Tigers hold it down against the San Francisco Giants. This by a count of 3-1. As for the Giants, you had Kadir Montero be able to shut them down. For Montero, has been relatively rough this season. 5 scoreless innings from there. Tyler Holden, he gives up a run in a 3rd inning, but Brendan Hennefy, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Borberski, Tommy Canley, Will Vest all lend a scoreless inning. And for San Francisco, Hayden Birdsong gives up 3 runs in 4 1/3 innings. From there, Eric Miller, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Spencer Bivens, 2 scoreless innings, and Jordan Nix, he was able to go for a scoreless inning as well, but not enough to be able to get the job done on this day. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, this is with a few games still pending for Monday, but we have seen things be very underwhelming out there in baseball this season, and especially over the last 7 days. Over the last 7 days, favorites have been just 50 and 45 on the money line. That's 52.6%, but 57 unders to 38 overs. That is a 60% under rate. Overall for the season, under rate is at 53.7%, 411 unders, 354 overs. Meanwhile, money line favorites, they're ending at about 58.1%, 461 and 332. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Monday. Coming up next, how about if we do take a look at what we're all getting on the Tuesday card and what we've got landscape-wise in Major League Baseball with our good friend William Boor right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Decent Family Podcast.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now, and the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger. Because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got William Boor aboard. He does such a tremendous job over at Action Network. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he's very hard at work taking a look at what we've all been getting on that front, but additionally, I know that football never ends over there at Action Network. They do a great job of being able to slice through all the playoff action that we're getting. And for William, you're able to find him in a few different places. I know that you're able to find him in the Philadelphia Inquirer and the New York Post as well. And you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at the letter W. And then his last name, Boor, Boor. And William, great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Greg. Always happy to hop on past Labor Day. So now we're getting, or Memorial Day. So now we're getting some real results and really feel like we're in the meat of the season.
By the way, I'm glad that I am not the only one that screws up Memorial Day and Labor Day. I don't know why. I do it all the time. So that actually makes me feel a little bit good about myself. But you know what, William? What has been some of your biggest takeaways through the first 8 weeks of the season? Because as you mentioned, this is really that landmarker that a lot of people look at and say, hey, you know what we've seen thus far might actually be for real.
Yeah, you're right. There's no real good reason to confuse those two holidays, but I do it constantly.
Yep.
I think it's been an interesting start to the season. Right now, Rays are playing really well, which I think we all knew the Yankees were going to play well, but I'm kind of curious, can the Rays, I don't think they're a legitimate World Series contender, but can they keep this up and just kind of make the AL East more interesting? They're kind of what I view as a 162 team, not a 20 games in October sort of team. So that's interesting. The NL West is interesting. Same with the AL Central. A lot of these divisions are having really close races. AL West is interesting too. I think Seattle, we all knew they were going to be good. I think of them winning the division. I know some people had it, but it wasn't necessarily a unanimous or a consensus pick. So it's going to see, obviously, if they can keep pitching and keep all those pitchers healthy, they're going to be in great shape. They're going to be a tough team to mess with. And then the NL East is interesting just because I think we knew it was going to be a 3-team race, but I don't think we knew that the Mets were going to have, the best pitching staff in baseball. That's kind of come out of surprise. We knew, the Phillies were going to be good. Braves got off to a slow start, but they're going to be there in the end. I think just right now, obviously, we still have a long way to go. We still have over 100 games, but I'm excited that we have a lot of close divisions. Some have 4 teams within 5 games of each other. Some it's just 2, but it's never fun when you have, divisions that are wrapped up by the All-Star break.
Yep, I'm right there with you. But one thing that is wrapped up right now, the Rockies are going to be the worst team in baseball. Currently on pace for 27 and 135, which is going to set the most losses by a team outside of the 1800s in a history record by a whole bunch of games. Just how do you, for one, take a look at the stink of stink that we've seen for the Rockies? And 2, is there any way we can fade them right now? Because it seems like everything is taxed to the moon, and very rightfully so.
I think every time I see a new Rockies stat, it just makes me laugh and doesn't seem real.
They're off to the worst start that we have seen since the Ottoman Empire was 28 years away from collapse.
There's another one. Yeah, exactly. Every stat doesn't seem real, and you have to check for typo. You're like, that person didn't mean to say that. And then you're like, oh, nope, they did. Like you said, they're so hard to fade right now because the books aren't stupid. The books know this team's bad. I think what you really got to do is you've either got to use them for props, maybe try and find someone to hit a home run against them because then you're getting a plus money play, or use them to reduce juice. I've been using them a lot on maybe a minus 160, minus 170 money line team, and then just tapping on the Rockies so that what I'm really doing is kind of counting that leg as a win because the other Rockies teams, minus 330 money line. And then I'm getting the, insert team here that was 160 and I'm getting them at a 130 play and just kind of grabbing my value that way. Because anything against the Rockies, the over, the opposing team's team total, Rockies plus 1.5, Rockies plus 2, all those things are so heavily juiced that it's hard to find any value on anything that's, minus 280.
Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. And I'll throw out there another one for you. The New York Mets pitching staff has allowed 172 runs this year. The Rockies have been outscored by 173 runs. They've been outscored by the more than the amount of runs that the Mets have given up runs thus far this season.
Ridiculous.
Good God. As we've got our good friend in William Boor joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And how about if we look at some more competitive teams? Because there's actually being some baseball that is real and that is competitive out there, and I think that this one is very interesting. You were mentioning the Rays getting hot. Taj Bradley is going to be on the bump for them against Joe Ryan, against a Minnesota Twins team that has been getting relatively hot here as well. We're right now with the Twins about minus 125, total of 8. How do you evaluate this one? Because I think gauging the totals with this Rays team is going to be so interesting because now we're starting to get to the part of the year where I think that the ball might be flying out of that ballpark.
Yeah, I think we all knew it was coming when the weather was going to start heating up. They're playing in a minor league park. That's not their fault. That was a natural disaster's fault. Obviously, you can't say the same thing about the A's. But regardless of whose fault it is what it is. They're playing there. I think those totals, I'm with you, are going to start creeping up, especially depending on who's the mound. They've got some fly ball pitchers on that staff. Bradley is good, not a super elite pitcher. He's not going to, throw 8 innings of 1-run ball and 2 hits. And so if we got some balls in play, I wouldn't be shocked if this game kind of starts getting up there. The issue is the Rays are good, but there's not a, 1 or 2 guys who you're like, oh, that guy's, you got to pitch around him or you can't let him beat you. There's kind of a bunch of above average guys, which is what they always are. And it works, but it's hard to, when you're betting over, is rely on okay, if the 2, 3, 4 hitter really will get me there today. With the Rays, it's kind of let's see what happens. But It works for them. It has worked for them for seemingly 2 decades. So keep riding it.
Yep, absolutely. I think that that's a good approach to be taking there, and I think that this one is fun as well. As we've got ourselves a Texas Rangers team that has been such a heavy under team this year that it's not even funny. But we now have a total of 7.5, with it being Bowden Francis against Nathan Eovaldi, and Francis has been getting banged around like a pinata. 15 home runs allowed thus far this season. Rangers are about a -165 favorite. How do you take a look at both this game and the Rangers moving forward? Because they're one of the hardest teams to gauge. Because I've been banking on some positivity for their offense for the entirety of the season. And we saw a little bit of it against the White Sox in the back half of that series. But man, this has just been a struggling offense all season.
We're recording this during the Monday game. I'm on the Rangers money line, and they've got 1 run right now via a solo homer. You look at some of the names in the lineup, and you just think like they don't have bad players. They have players who know how to hit. You know, or at least you assume it's coming eventually. I just don't know when eventually is. Maybe Francis is the matchup they need, because you're right, he's been getting hit hard. And anytime you see a total of 7.5, like that's a low number. That's the kind of number you expect with, like, I don't know, Logan Webb versus Paul Skeens on the mound or something like this. Eovaldi's good, and he can limit a Toronto Blue Jays offense that's also kind of underwhelmed. But can Francis limit the Rangers in their current form? Yes. If the Rangers break out, then, you know, they could obviously get this number by themselves, or at least get 4 or 5 of it. But I think if you're betting the over here, you're obviously expecting the Rangers to do the bulk of the work and hope they kind of break out of this funk.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's been rough for the Rangers to say the least, and we'll see if moving forward they're able to give you just a little bit more. As joining me on the show, we do have William Boor, who does great work over at Action Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And before we dive into a few other just game previews, how do you take a look at the entirety of this NL West race? Because obviously, Colorado Rockies comfortably a mile behind, and they're probably going to finish up with the most games back of any team in a divisional race that we have seen in the history of baseball, and they might clear that by about 15 miles. But that said, every other team out there has been pretty competitive, including the Diamondbacks, who's a game or two below 500, but they've been rock solid. But I'm just still so intrigued by this entire division, not named the Rockies.
The Rockies might actually have a big say in the end of this division. If God forbid they win 2 of 3 from someone in September, it could kind of tilt this. But
things are going to fly if they win 2 of 3.
Yeah, that's a big if. This division is interesting because, yeah, let's take Colorado out of it. Now we've got 4 teams within 6 games of each other. The Diamondbacks are in 4th place, but I think we all kind of agree that they're a very good team. All 4 of those teams, their run differentials are positive. Diamondbacks is +1, but still positive. As long as these teams can keep it close throughout the summer, and I don't know why they wouldn't, I think this could come down to who's like really aggressive at the trade deadline, who maybe grabs that reliever that, you know, nails it down. I'm kind of looking at you, Arizona, whose bullpen's a mess. This is interesting. I think the Dodgers obviously have to be the favorite. They still have the most talent top to bottom, but Snell, Glasnow, the pitching is starting to get kind of dicey. And if they're not going to score 8 runs a game, sometimes it's like, hey, we don't have starters. We're running out of people. When I know it's been floated that Shohei is going to come back and be in the rotation, but like, how effective is that going to be? That's still a long time off. And I know we all think he's the best player in baseball and this 2-way superstar, and he was, and he's still a great hitter, but we haven't seen him pitch. So I think a lot of people just assuming he's going to come back and be an ace. Maybe he will be, but we don't actually know that. And there's also not going to be a ton of time for the Dodgers to find out, depending on when he comes back. What if he only makes 1 start before the trade deadline? What if Snell only makes 1 start, or he's slated to come back the day after the trade deadline, or something like that? The Dodgers in late July are going to be in an interesting spot where they're either going to have to be aggressive at the trade deadline, or they're going to have a small sample size of maybe, you know, Ohtani, Snell, Glasnow, and be like, well, let's kind of hope that they are what we all expect them to be.
Yep, absolutely. I think that that's going to be worth watching, because for the Dodgers, you mentioned the starting rotation injuries, but also the bullpen injuries, like Blake Trine, Michael Kopech, those guys being on the injured list as well. They have really just been up against it, and they've had to rely upon their offense so much. And that leads into what we're going to be seeing in terms of the game on Tuesday with the Dodgers and the Cleveland Guardians. And Guardians are only about +110, +105 underdogs with a total of 8.5. Dustin May going up against Tanner Bybee. How do you take a look at this one with a guy in Bybee who's actually been really, really good at home this season? But as we know with Cleveland, not necessarily so reliable with that bottom of the lineup.
I mean, the Dodgers, if you're going to have to rely on an offense, I guess that's a good one to rely on. Tanner's good. That ballpark kind of gets small at times. May can give up some home runs as well. And I think just the way the Dodgers are playing with the pitching staff struggles, the bullpen struggles, I think you kind of got to look at them as an over team. They're kind of similar to the way it's hard to fade the Rockies because everything's so taxed. It's kind of hard to back the Dodgers because everything is so taxed and they're always favorites. You can do run lines. I know you've got the great stat, but like a lot of their wins are by 1.5 or more, or, cover the 1.5. But I think the way to bet the Dodgers, lately is just probably to do overs if you think they're going to win, because they're probably going to have to outslug some people.
No question about it. And I do think that it's going to be interesting to watch what Justin May does moving forward, because he always had such good stuff. He dealt with so many injuries, though, and he's working his way back as well. And I think that this one is going to be an interesting one, as well as we've got ourselves the Baltimore Orioles and the St. Louis Cardinals. And for the Orioles, they've been able to win a few games in a row, but them being like a -115, -120 favorite against the Cardinals with Tomoyuki Sugano going up against Andre Palante. I don't know about you, but I'm going to continue to bet against the Baltimore Orioles despite this little bit of a run, because I just believe that they've been mispriced all season.
Yeah, they have obviously drastically underperformed. Just looking at the page right now, that 19-34 record is still hard to believe. And I think you're right. They're still getting priced based on kind of preseason expectations. And you look at the roster and you're like, there's some good pieces here. And there certainly are. There's a lot of players that we all know are good baseball players. But until they actually start performing, like you can't back them. For whatever reason, is just not performing right now. So this has to be a play on the Cardinals or a play on the total, but you can't back the Orioles right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, but is this one that we want to be backing? As we've got Logan Webb and Jack Flaherty. The Giants are a very slim road favorite with a total of 7, and I've always noted this. Logan Webb, just a different pitcher when he's away from home rather than when he's at home. I always love backing him in San Francisco, but personally, I make the Tigers a little bit more of a favorite. I want to get your thoughts on this one.
This one's interesting because I know what you're saying about Webb's, home and away splits. The thing here is Detroit's a big park. Sometimes, I've seen Webb get in trouble giving up the long ball or some balls in the gap. This is a big park. It might help. I know personally, you're more into size and totals. Personally, I'm just going to be on no run first inning on this. I like Webb to just, get off to a quick start. I don't think the Giants have a potent offense. I think Flaherty can get through the first. Me personally, I'm going to just bet the first inning and get in and get out of this one.
Yep, I don't blame you there. That's a pretty good approach. And anything else that you're taking a look at for what's going to be a solid Tuesday?
Braves Phillies NL East is really interesting, and I just kind of want to see what we get from Spencer Strider. Not going to bet it because he's a huge unknown right now. Obviously, missed a lot of time last year. Then he was back. Then he was hurt again. Now he's back again. Small sample size this year, only 0-2, 5.79 ERA. I don't necessarily read into that because of the sample size, but we know how good he can be. And I just want to see, is he close to that at all? If he gets, shelled, then I'll lay off it. If he throws 4 solid innings, then maybe I'll look to see who he's matched up against in 5 days, and maybe I'll hop on the train then. But I just want to see what version of Spencer Strider we get.
Yep, I'm right there with you, because this guy throughout his career has always relied upon getting a bunch of swings and misses. And if he's not getting those swings and misses too, man, it's going to make it a little bit difficult for him. But what makes this show so easy is you being such a great guest, William. You do an amazing job over at Action Network and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's on tap for you, and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, follow along on Twitter and Blue Sky at WBoor, just WBOOR, and on the Action app at William Boor _ all one word. But that's just me. Make sure to check out actionnetwork.com for everything my colleagues and I are doing. We usually have betting guides up for every single baseball game, NHL, NBA playoffs. We have the NFL draft. We're covering every WNBA game. Pretty much everything you can think of. We had Pope odds on the website. We'll probably do the hot dog contest in July. Anything you can bet, we'll have covered for you.
The fact that we had Pope odds was absolutely tremendous, and we had the man from Chicago who took over the Popitude. So that was absolutely tremendous. And what else is amazing is always getting William aboard. He does a tremendous job over at Action Network, and he supplied the goods once again today. So big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis of the game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we catch them all.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network, taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to William for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and the Intra-League games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves are going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies as Ranger Suarez is on the bum for the Phils, and Spencer Strider goes for the Braves. The Braves find themselves as very slight underdogs, anywhere between even money to -105. Meanwhile, -110 to -116, that number on the Phils. 8 is the total. Over is -125, and the under is +105. Seeing straight 8.5 out there. The under is -120, and the over is even. I am between 8 and 8.5 on this. I set my total at 8.4. Personally, I would rather take a shot on an 8 over rather than an 8.5 under for Ranger Suarez. Ever since the All-Star break of the 2024 campaign, it's been a little bit hit or miss for him, though I will say he's able to do a pretty solid job in terms of being able to keep things out in front of him, not giving up a lot of walks, and has always had some very interesting home and road splits, to say the least. There have been a lot of years where he's actually been a little bit worse when he has been at home rather than when he's been on the road, and for Suarez had that rough first start of the season where he gave up 7 runs. Ever since then, he's been able to hunker down, he's been able to get into great form. It's a lot of combined 3 runs over the course of his last 3 starts, and swing and miss stuff starting to return to him. 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for Spencer Strider, it's just hard to know what you're going to be able to get out of him because this is only start number 3 of the season, and he did not look sharp in his last start against the Washington Nationals. He strikes out 3 and 4 in the 3rd innings and gives up 4 runs. So a team that's a little bit less than impressive, and you have to wonder how that rehab is going to be going for him because he's always been a high strikeout guy. For Spencer Strider, throughout his career, 13.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he's going to need to be able to go out there, be able to find that good swing and miss stuff, because if not, he's going to get tattooed. For the Philadelphia Phillies, this lineup is pretty solid in terms of being able to move line. You don't necessarily have a ton of power outside of Kyle Schwarber, but Kyle Schwarber is a very, very good, shall we say, deodorant to the lack of power that you've got from everyone else. And Bryce Harper is starting to pick it up. Harper right around about 370 or so with regards to that on-base percentage. He's been able to supply the team with 8+ home runs this season, but I mean, it's all about Schwarbs. About 18 home runs and nearly a 400 on base this season. Then just have a bunch of guys between like 4 and 6 home runs. Max Kepler, Trey Turner down for what? Nick Castellanos, Bryson Stott, all these guys, Alec Bohm as well. In the case of Turner, he's been way above 300, so that's been pretty rock solid there. And then I have a lot of guys there hitting in that neighborhood about a 257 to a 272, and you've had Yohan Rojas at the bottom of the fold be pretty solid for this team. Now for the Philadelphia Phillies, this is a pretty suspect bullpen, especially with Jose Alvarado getting suspended because he was using weight loss supplements, so good clean family fun there. You've been able to have Matt Strom give you about a 3.35 ERA, and he's like the lone guy in the bullpen right now that's giving you a sub 3.70 ERA. Ryan Kirkering has been a little bit better recently, but guys like Jose Ruiz, Carlos Hernandez, Jordan Romano, they have been absolutely awful for the team. And for the Atlanta Braves, they do have the leg up with regards to their bullpen. Desmond Hernandez has been rock solid. I really like what you've been able to get as well out of some of these longer guys like Dylan Lee is able to come in and hold down the fort for the team. Rossi Iglesias, so it's been a little bit of a disaster. And for the Atlanta Braves, Matt Olson up to 12 home runs, not quite on 50 home run pace like a few seasons ago, but he's back up to about a 340 on base. Getting back around Acuna Jr., 2 home runs in his first 2 games back is big, especially with the fact that you've got got Michael Harris along with also Ozzie Albies, both hitting in that neighborhood about a 220, 239. They just haven't given you too much this season. Austin Riley has been stuck on 8 home runs for quite a while, but moving the line, hitting for about a 275. And Drake Baldwin has been above a 300 as well. So very interesting circumstance. I would rather take an 8 over rather than an 8.5 under with regards to these pitchers. And for the Phillies, I did set them at a minus 112 on the money line. Right now, we're starting to see some minus 110s, willing to lay that Phillies money line to go along with the over. 953, 954 on the betting board. The Colorado Rockies hit the road to face off against the Chicago Cubs. Caleb Horton, here's a who, goes for the Cubs, and Esteban Marquez is on the bump for Colorado. And right now, this game is off the board with regards to a total because that's going to be based on the Wrigley Field wind. And right now for the Cubs, minus $3 to minus 325 on them. Anywhere between plus 260 to plus 265 is that number on the Rockies because we don't have a total. We don't have a run line prices quite yet, but man, it's going to be hard for me to look anywhere other than at the Cubs on the run line because all but 6 of the 45 Colorado Rockies losses have been by multiple runs. 39 multiple loss games this far this season. And for your information, wind is going to be blowing in most likely at about like 8 or so miles per hour. Conditions not the world's greatest as it's going to be like mid 50s, so not typically what you expect in the latter half of May, but man, this is a Colorado Rockies team that they're not getting any offense generated whatsoever. This team is sitting below the Mendoza line of 200 as a collective when they're away from home, and they're just a completely powerless team. Like, you've actually had Hunter Goodman be able to give you a little bit of something when the team has been on the road. For Goodman, 5 home runs on the road, hitting a 300, so that's tremendous, but allow me to just go down the list of names of guys that are currently getting a $167 or lower on the road this far this season. Brenton Doyle, Michael DeGlia, Ryan McMahon, Sean Borcher, Jacob Stallings, Adele Amador, who I think threw his glove at the ball on a fly ball. Like, my goodness, that's what you're getting right now out of these guys. And the bullpen has actually not been the world's worst. For the Colorado Rockies, it's been a halfway presentable bullpen. You've got Zach Ognos, Jake Bird, who've been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Jimmy Harrigan has been able to give you a few okay innings. Seth Alverson has been a little bit of a disaster. And then you've got the likes of Anel Shavili and company. That's not great to say the least. But, I mean, what are you going to be able to get out of Germán Marquez, who's just become a human pinata this season? Like, he is getting no swings and misses whatsoever. He's only getting about 5 punch-outs per 9 innings. He's giving up right around about 3.5 walks per 9 innings. To his credit, he's actually been able to keep the ball in the yard. He's only been giving up about 4 home runs in his 47 innings thus far this season, but other than that, you've got nothing going from whatsoever. And then for Horton, he's a little bit of a young gun guy that's made a few starts for the Chicago Cubs, and I think that he's got a little bit of potential as well. He needs to be able to just round things into form, and his swing and miss stuff is not quite where it needs to be for the big league level. 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. To his credit, in his first few appearances, only give it up 3 walks over the course of 14 and a third inning, so to be able to hold it down there, but gets the wind blowing in, and he gets to go up against a Rockies team that just absolutely sucks, and for him, he's backed up by the best offense out there in all baseball. The Chicago Cubs averaging darn near 6 runs per contest. You've just got so many guys that right now give you a double-figure amount of homers. C.A. Suzuki along with Pete Crow Armstrong, 14 home runs apiece. Kyle Tucker, Dansby Swanson, 11 and 12 home runs apiece, with Tucker being able to give you about a 380 or so on base, and just everyone's moving the line. You've got the duo of Michael Busch and Ian Happ, both give you north of 345 on base. You've had Carson Kelly give you 9 home runs at 100 or so at bats. He's giving you north of a 4 on base. Just so fearsome, man. For the Colorado Rockies, it's just not great, to say the least. With regards to this one, I did set my total to where an 8 or less. I'll be taking a look at the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, because Marquez has just had a tough time locating, to say the least. And for the Cubs, minus 168 or better, going to be looking at that run line. 955, 956 on the betting board. You've got the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they're on the road against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Corbin Burns is on the bump for the Snakes, and you've got Mike Burrows on the bump for the Buccos. The total on this game is 9, the under is minus 120, and the over is even. With Arizona, you're going to be getting them between a minus 258 to a minus 260, plus 210 to plus 215 is that number currently on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Right now, if you're looking at run line prices, a lot of places have this off the board. I'm seeing a straight minus 125 out there on the Arizona Diamondbacks, and that's just getting up a little bit too rich for me. At a plus 216 or higher, which we should, when it's all said and done, be able to get at least a plus 220 on the Pirates. I'm going to be looking at them on the money line. For Mike Burrows, a little bit of a young gun guy that when he was over at the Independence League for Indianapolis, he was supposed posting up a 2.51 ERA, was supplying the team with about 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and I think that he's actually going to be able to give you some good innings for the Pirates, as in his first start, he was banged around by the Brewers, gave up a pair of bombs, 4 runs in total over the course of 5 innings, and now he has to pitch in Arizona. That's not necessarily great, to say the least, because you've got an Arizona team that has been a top 5 unit in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You've got all sorts of guys that are lighting it up with Eugenio Suarez, along with Corbin Carroll, both giving you between 14 to 15 home runs apiece. Carroll's been able to do a nice job of giving you north of a 350 on base. Suarez not necessarily hitting for a lot of average, but that's why you've got Josh Chandler hitting for about a 285. Ketel Marte of the Marte Partes hitting at 275. Geraldo Perdomo's been able to give you 4 on base. Gabriel Moreno, all these guys are firing all cylinders. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they went 26 straight games with 4 runs or fewer. They've been able to bust out a little bit more here. They've gotten past a 4-run plateau, and I believe now 3 out of their last 5 games, so that's solid. You've got Oneil Cruz give you 11 bombs. He's been able to supply you with north of a 325 on base. Andrew McCutchen, north of a 340 on base himself, so these guys have been solid, but a lot of guys hitting in that neighborhood of, I would say, a 225 to a 235 with Cabrian Hayes, Spencer Horowitz, Alexander Canario, that aren't just giving you much of anything. Jared Trollo has been a disaster for the team, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's not like this is some sort of an amazing bullpen either, as you've got David Benhar, who's been booping the Benhar all season long, giving you north of a 5 ERA. Dennis Santana, he's actually been pretty solid. Joey Wentz is a guy that I thought was going to pan out a little bit more, but Chase Shogert has been solid. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they're a bottom 10 team with regards to their bullpen ERA as well, having AJ Puck on the injured list to start them. Now they're getting back Justin Martinez, that's one of their better pieces, and Kendall Graveman is out off the injured list as well. You have a guy in Jalen Beeks who's been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but Juan Murillo has been posting up north of 4 ERA. Kevin Ginkel has been an absolute disaster along Ryan Thompson, so it's a very interesting scenario, especially with Corbin Burns, because you look at Burns and the just surface level numbers, and you think that he's having a good year, but you dive in a little bit further, and he is doing for some regression. 273 ERA, but a 4.05 fielding dependent. He's getting fewer than 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's up to 4 walks per 9. That is not Corbin Burns. Like, he's been able to keep the ball in the yard, and he's been very rock solid in his last few starts. He's given up combined 5 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts. Don't know how long lasting it's going to be. I do think that for the Pirates are going to be able to get to Mr. Burns a little bit more. Again, Pirates offense a little bit shaky, so I said I tell it an 8.7. I'm liking the under, but being able to get a plus 216 or higher, going to be looking at the Buccos on the money line. 957, 958 on the betting board. The Slam Diego Padres playoffs to the Miami Marlins says Max Meyer is on the bump for Miami. Stephen Golick is on the bump for the Padres. Pods are between minus 172 to minus 180 favorites, plus 150 to plus 155. That number on Miami. 7.5 is the total. The over is minus 120 and the under is even. And for the Marlins, I would have needed at least a plus 222 to be able to take a shot here. And it was looking like it was going to be Yu Darvish make his first start of the season. Instead, it's going to be Mr. Kolek, but I like what I've seen out of Mr. Kolek, as he's already got a complete game to his credit. He's been able to do a pretty solid job of being able to keep things out in front of him. I recognize he's not going to blow you away with his fastball or anything like that, but he does a solid job not giving up a lot of free passes. Right now, he's been giving up about 2.8 walks per 9 innings, 284 ERA, doing for a little bit of aggression with a 403 fielding dependent. And for Max Meyer, he has been posting up a little bit north of a 4 ERA. He's been able to get a lot of swings and misses, as right now his strikeouts per 9 rate is hovering right around about 10.1, but is giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. And when it comes to the San Diego Padres lineup, it's one where you've been lacking quite a bit of power this season, but you do know that it's sort of there with these guys, and you've had Manny Machado do a really nice job, despite the fact that he's only hit 3 home runs thus far this season. Find a way to be able to move the line, as he's hitting above a 3. Jackson Merrill has been able to about a 340 as well. Fernando Tatis Jr. has been that main form of power, 12 home runs, north of a 350 on base. But Gavin Sheets, how about him being able to give you 10 bombs as well? Now you're getting Jake Cronenworth off the injured list as well, so I do like what I'm seeing there. And for the Miami Marlins, Kyle Stowers has been great. How about a 380 on base with 10 home runs? Other than Matt Mervis, you really don't have a lot of power for this team. And Matt Mervis, despite the fact that he's got 7 home runs, how about him hitting a nice hearty $178? That's not great, to say the least. As you've got Eric Wagaman, who's been able to give you about a 250 average, but now Xavier Edwards is on the injured list. Dane Myers was really the guy that was moving the line, getting on base. He's on the injured list. Augustin Ramirez, as a little bit of a young guy, 6 home runs, 310 on base at the catcher spot, is actually pretty rock solid. And Connor Norby, when he's been out there, has been able to move the line as well. But Jesus Sanchez has been a disappointment. Lopez has been as well. And this is the Miami Marlins team that is currently in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've had Anthony Bender be actually very good in this bullpen. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. But that's it. Outside of that, you've got Anthony Veziano, Lake McCarr, along with someone like a Jesus Tinoco, George Soriano. These guys they're all giving you north of 4.50 ERA. And for the San Diego Padres, this is a team that does rank in the top 10 with regards to our bullpen ERA. Adrian Morejon has been a pretty good long guy for this team. I like what I'm seeing of Jeremiah Estrada. He's been able to give you about a sub-3 ERA. Yuki Matsui, Robert Suarez, they do a nice job in the back half of the bullpen, and Jason Adam back below a sub-2 ERA. So do think that the Padres go out there, dominate this game. I set my total at 8.2. I like the over. And for the Padres, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 112 on that run line. 959, 960 on the betting board. You've got the Minnesota Twins, and they're on the road going up against the Tampa Bay Rays. Taj, don't call Milton Bradley is on the bump for the Rays. Joe Ryan goes for Minnesota. Minnesota is a minus 120 to a minus 125 favorite, and between plus 105 to plus 113. That number on Tampa Bay, it is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And for Minnesota, I did set them at a minus 124. Right now, seeing like a minus 123 or so. I'm going to be willing to take the Twins on the money line. For Joe Ryan, I do have my trepidations with him on the road, because on the road is where he really starts to give up the deep ball. Throughout his career, he gives up at home right around about 1 home run per 9 innings. It goes up to about 1.4, 1.5 home runs per 9 when he is away from home. So always have to be mindful of that. But that's said, thus far this season, he has been very good with a 2.68 ERA, 10.5 strikeouts to 1.3 walks per 9 innings. Albeit again, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings. But he's going up against a Tampa Bay Rays team that just really hasn't been able to generate a lot of offense. Now, here's a fear that you do have. This is a Tampa Bay Rays ballpark that is now outdoors this season. And, well, now we're into late May, early June, where the ball is going to start to be flying. So that's something that you do want to be keeping in mind. As for the Tampa Bay Rays, they really haven't gotten the deep ball moving too much. A little bit. Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero, combined 19 home runs on these two guys, both hitting in that neighborhood about a 240 or so. Yandy Diaz hitting a 242 with 7 bombs himself. The guys on the bottom of the folder just not doing too much for you. As you've got Taylor Walls, Danny Jansen, Christopher Morel, all hitting a 205 or lower, so you need a bit more there. And on the flip side, you've got a offense that has been leaving a little bit of something to be desired themselves, but it feels like they're starting to find their way with Harrison Bader, Ryan Jeffers, both giving you north of a 350 on base. Byron Buxton has been on the injured list, with a little bit of concussion, so that's not necessarily been amazing. Trevor Larnach, 7 bombs, he's hitting for about a 320. You need a bit more at the bottom of the lineup. Christian Vasquez, Royce Lewis, Edouard Julien, Deshaun Kiersey, these guys hitting at 215 or lower, not necessarily so savory, but Ryan Jeffers to be able to give you that 370 on base. And for the Twins, where they've really been able to thrive has been in the bullpen. This is a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I don't think Danny Kaluma is allowed to run this far this season. He has been that good. Yohan Dodon has been one of the better closers in all baseball. Louis Varland, Cole Sands, these guys are able to give you a sub 275 ERA. And then for the Tampa Bay Rays, you know that they're always going to get good bullpen pitching out of them. Pete Fairbanks is one of the better closers that you can find in all of baseball. And then you've got the likes of Eric Orze, who's been able to give you a sub 225 ERA. Hunter Biggie, Manuel Rodriguez, these guys have been able to come up big with a sub 250 ERA. Cole Sulzer has been a nice find for them as well. So it's a very interesting circumstance here. I do think that for the Twins, they're going to be able to get the job done, just because with Taj Bradley, I just have my issues with him in general in the way that he gives up the deep ball, because he throughout his career prior to this year was always a relatively good strikeout artist. That has really waned, as right now he's only giving you about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 3.8 walks per 9 innings, 1.3 bombs per 9, 461 ERA, 465 fielding dependent, and this is a man that has been pretty consistent recently, giving up approximately 2 runs before out of his last 5 starts, but gives up the deep ball at just the wrong time. So I did set my money line price at a minus 124. I do like the Twins there, and made my total at an 8.3. So here at the 8, I'm going to be taking a shot on the over with the warming up temperatures. 961, 962 on the betting board. The Toronto Blue Jays hit the road. They're facing off against the Texas Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi is on the bump for the Rangers, and Bowden Francis goes for Toronto. Toronto is an underdog of plus 140. Meanwhile, it is minus 155 to minus 165 on the Texas Rangers. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 125, and the under is plus 105. And with the Rangers, I set them at a minus 148 on the money line. Right now, if you're taking a look at those initial run line prices, and as I'm doing this, really only FanDuel has one up, you'll find that at a plus 126. I think that we could probably get a little bit better there, so we shall wait and see if we could get to like a plus 135 or so. I'd be looking at the Rangers on the run line. For Nathan Eovaldi, he has been absolutely dominant this year, and for Eovaldi, he just always seems to come out in seasons and gets off to really nice starts. Now, he always gets like injured, and then towards the back out of the season falls off a cliff, but a $160 ERA, 233 fielding dependent, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only given up a half home run per 9. This guy has been absolutely superb. There's not much more that needs to be said there. Meanwhile, for Bowden Francis, he has been doing for regression for multiple years, and the regression monster was very, very hungry over the last few starts. How about a 5.54 ERA? He's given up 15 home runs in 50 and a third innings, 2.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings, a 6.50 fielding dependent. Now, it was a little bit better in his last start against the Slam Diego Padres, 2 runs allowed, but he only went 4 innings in that start as well, and he gave up the 5 home runs against the Boston Red Sox. As a matter of fact, he has given up a whopping 9 home runs in his last 5 starts. Less than savory there, and now you go up against a Texas Rangers team that has not been hitting all season long, so it's a good old situation of something's got to give. Wyatt Langford has been able to give you north of 320 on base. He's been able to supply the team with 9 home runs, but having Corey Seager on the injured list has been hurting this Texas Rangers team, and then you just flat out have disappointments. I wish I could call it anything else for this Texas Rangers team, but my goodness gracious, the fact that you've got Kyle Higashioka, Evan Carter, Kevin Pillar, Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, Jock Peterson, Ezekiel Duran, all hitting at 250 or lower. Not great. Jake Berger is starting to pick it up. He's been relatively a waste of money as well, though. And I mean, really, other than Langford, nobody else is giving north of 7 home runs on this team. You do have the Josh Smith, Josh Young, both hitting at least at 270. And then for the Rangers, the bullpen is about league average. You've had a few guys be able to step up in this bullpen, like Robert Garcia has been able to supply you with a sub 250 ERA. Hobie Milner has been relatively solid, but Sean Armstrong has been shaky to say the least. Why Luke Jackson has been getting closing opportunities, I have no idea. And Jacob Webb has been a little bit of a disaster as well on the flip side for the Toronto Blue Jays. This is about a league average bullpen, even though Jeff Hoffman has been very bad in his last few appearances. Yimi Garcia has done a nice job holding down the fort. He's been able to give you about a sub 355 ERA. And then you've got Brandon Little has been very good, a sub 2 ERA out of him. But I mean, again, with this Toronto Blue Jays team, you also have a lack of just any sort of power whatsoever. Dalton Varsho, who missed north of 30 games this year, is right now leading the team with 7 home runs. Like, that's all that needs to be said right there. Hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, by the way. As is Anthony Santander, who's only giving you 6 home runs. Figueroa Jr., moving line, 380 on base, but still 7 home runs this far this season. And then Nathaniel Lukes has been able to give you about a 360 on base. Bo Bichette, Alejandro Kirk, Miles Straw, these guys hitting between about 275 to 285 are giving you a bit of average, but that's it for the Rangers. I do think that they get to Bowden France this year. I do think that we're going to see a little bit more offense in this one. I said my total at 8.3, so here at the 7.5, I like the over, and I'm going to be able to take a run line of a plus 135 or better with the Rangers. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Athletics are on the road against the Houston Astros, as you've got Hunter Brown on the bump for the Astros, and JP Sears is on the bump for the A's. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And right now, minus 195 to minus 205 is that number on Houston. And you're going to be finding the A's anywhere between plus 170 to plus 175 if you're looking at that run line price of the Houston Astros. Right now, I'm finding it at FanDuel at a minus 102. I set my money line price at a minus 210, and I was willing to take pretty much anything of a minus 105 or better on this Astros run line, so I'd be willing to accept that. For JP Sears, it's been a little bit of a turnaround year for him. Ever since he joined the Athletics, he had been giving up right around about 1.4 home runs per 9, and he's not necessarily some guy that's going to get a whole bunch of swings and misses or anything like that, but has really cut down on the walks, 1.7 walks per 9 innings. Now, giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings as well, as he gave up 4 bombs in his last start against the LA Angels, but much of that is coming at home for him. For JP Sears, even back when they were in Oakland, he had some very interesting home and road splits, and thus far this season for our good friend Mr. JP Sears, he's right now supplying a 309 road ERA compared to a 568 home ERA, and on the road he's been giving up just 3 home runs at 35 innings, so you feel good there. But Hunter Brown, even though he did get a little bit lit up in his last start, this guy has been very dominant thus far this season. A 204 ERA. I believe that he's given up more than 2 earned runs in like just 2 of his appearances thus far this season. 10.5 strikeouts, 0.7 walks per 9 innings, 204 ERA, 261 fielding independent, and then he's backed up by one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all of baseball. You've got the Bryans, Brian King, Brian DeBreu, who both been able to give you a sub 225 ERA. Stephen Okert has been able to give you some good innings. Caleb Ward has been rock solid. Josh Hader is back to being the Josh Hader of old, and for the Athletics, this is a bottom 6 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Mason Miller has been all sorts of shaky this season. You've been able to get a few guys who have been able to give you some good innings, as Justin Sterner has been able to give you a sub 2 ERA. I absolutely love the fact that we've been able to get a little bit more moving forward as well out of Hogan Harris, old Hogan's Heroes. Has been pretty solid, but Noah Murdoch has been an absolute disaster. They tried out Ana Perdomo for a few appearances. That did not go well for them, and TJ McFarland just gives up too much contact in general for the A's. You do have a pair of guys who have been able to slug out the deep ball. Brent Rooker along Tyler Soderstrom both had a double-figure amount of homers, but Soderstrom has hit like 1 home run in the last 4 weeks. He needs to get going a little bit more there. He has been able to give the team about a 340 on base. Miguel Andujar has been very good at being able to get on base. He and Jacob Wilson both hitting above a 315, and Wilson, a 350 250 average. Doesn't walk to save his life. He's starting to draw a few more walks, but, that's been interesting. And Shea Langoliers, Shea is banging for about a 310 on base. He's out supplying the team with 9 home runs. Flip side, you've got a Houston Astros team that it's been a lineup that has been very suspect to say the least, but Isaac Paredes is right now bailing them out. 11 home runs, 375 on base. Nobody else on the roster with north of 6 home runs. Christian Walker, Jeremy Pena, Jose Altuve all had 6 bombs, and for Walker, he's only been able to give you a 275 on base. Altuve way down with his 255 average. Cam Smith all of a sudden has been at about a 260, so that's been nice, but you're still dealing with the Jordan Alvarez injury, but I do think that for the Astros, they're going to be able to get a very dominant start out of Hunter Brown. That bullpen is very rock solid, so I did set this run line price at a minus 104. I'm going to be willing to lay that run line with the Houston Astros, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over sub by total at a 7.7. 965, 966 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are on the road against the LA Angels. Tyler Anderson is on the bump for the Angels. Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees, and the Yankees are a favorite of anywhere between minus 175 to a minus 190, anywhere between plus 154 to a plus 158. That number on the Halos, and total on this game it is 9. The unders between minus 115 to a minus 120. The overs between even a minus 105, and for the Yankees, I did set them on the money line at a minus 151. I'm going to be able to take a shot on the Angels. For Tyler Anderson, not necessarily a guy that I trust in too much. He has been so gosh darn lucky over the last few years, it's not even funny, but the guy knows how to be able to get soft contact. I have no idea how, I have no idea why, but he knows how to get soft contact. 3.60 ERA, 5.25 fielding dependent. He gives up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, 3.8 walks per 9 innings, and somehow, someway, he Houdini's himself out of every single situation possible. Now, he has been getting tagged a little bit more, 3+ runs allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts, but for Carlos Rodon, this is a guy that has had his issues ever since joining the New York Yankees in terms of giving up the deep ball. As for Carlos Rodon, he has been overall this season doing a little bit of a better job of being able to keep things out in front of him. That said, I still do have my trepidations with him posting up a 2.88 ERA, but that fielding dependent, it's suffering more in the neighborhood of a 3.42. It's given up only about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but up with the walks, 3.5 walks per 9 innings, 11 punch-outs per 9, and he's coming in on a very good run as he has given up a grand total of 7 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts for the Yankees. Bullpen is pretty solid, especially when you consider Luke Weaver has just been one of the best closers out there in all of baseball, but that said, you do have Ian Hamilton, who's been a bit shaky for the team. Devin Williams just continues to not give you such great innings, and now Fernando Cruz being on the injury list, that does take away a nice possibility for them, though Jonathan Loaizaga coming back is going to be able to help them out as well. And then you got Aaron Judge, who's giving you a 487 on base and entered in the series with 18 home runs. Just absolutely wild there. Ben Rice has been able to give you 10 bombs. He's hitting for about a 340 on base. You've had Yasan Dominguez have his moments for the team. He and Oswaldo Cabrera, along with Rice, who I mentioned before, hitting in that neighborhood about a 245. You've had Cody Bellinger be able to come alive a little bit more. And even though Paul Goldschmidt is not giving you the same level of power that he did in past seasons, about a 400 on base. And on the flip side, you've got a Los Angeles Angels team that has been hitting pretty much all for power and really nothing else. You've been able to have Nolan Schunel be able to give you a 380 on base. And I like what I'm seeing on Zach Neto as well. Neto has been able to give you about a 285 average. He's been able to supply this team with 8 home runs, so that's pretty rock solid there. And then you've got Taylor Ward, Logan O'Hoppe, pair of guys that have been able to do a nice job of being able to slug out the deep ball. For Ward, 15 home runs this season. Logan O'Hoppe is up to 14 bombs. With both of these guys, they've been a little bit hit or miss with regards to the overall on-base vote. Logan O'Hoppe hitting about a 275. You've had Kyron Paris, Joe Adell, set fire to the rain. Both of these guys have been hitting below a 225, so that's a little bit of an issue for this team. But all in all, I do think that for the LA Angels, what's really going to be interesting is what you get out of the bullpen moving forward. Dead last in the big leagues in terms of ERA, but Ryan Zephyrion starting to show a little bit of promise. He's been able to give you a sub 450 ERA. Jake Eater has been able to give you a few okay innings, and Kenley Jansen has been rough to say the least, but I do think that this team is going to be able to get to Rodon a little bit more, and I do think that Tyler Anderson introduces some soft contact, so I did sell my total at an 8.7. I'm going to be one that I've been on the under, and I'm going to take a shot on the Angels on the money line. 967, 968 on the betting board. The Cleveland Guardians play host to the LA Dodgers, as you've got Mr. Dustin May open its May Day for the Dodgers, and Tanner Bybee is on the bump for Cleveland, and Cleveland does find themselves as an underdog of between plus 110 to plus 118, minus 127 to minus 130. That number on the Dodgers, 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and going to be willing to side with the Dodgers in this one. I did set them at a minus 137. For Tanner Bybee, he's actually been really good at home this season. He's posting up a ERA overall that is a 3.57, but that goes down to a $1.46 at home. At home, he's been able to do a nice job mitigating hard contact, while you do have a guy in Dustin May that has been posting up a little bit north of a 4 ERA, but he's got a slightly lower fielding independent, right around about the 3.9 raise, giving up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, and he gets to go up against a Cleveland Guardians team that has really struggled with their offense at home this season. They are currently 28th in the big leagues in terms of runs per game when they are at home, with about 3.45 runs per contest. It's just all about the bottom of the lineup for this team, because you've got a few guys that are doing a rock solid job, moving the line, finding way on base. Steven Kwan has been able to hit for north of a 3.15. You've been able to have Jose Ramirez give you 9+ home runs, hitting for about a 3.05. And then Kyle Manzardo, though he doesn't hit for any average whatsoever, he's been able to supply the team with a double-figure amount of homers. But it's the guys like a Brian Rocchio, Lane Thomas, Will Wilson, Bo Naylor, all these guys hanging below the dose line of 200. I'll give a little bit of credit where it is due. Daniel Sheeman has been a little bit better this season, and for the LA Dodgers, you just have so much more out of this lineup. Shohei Ohtani, 19 home runs this season, nearly a 390 on base. Mookie Betts, I mean, he's a little bit down, but he's still giving you about a 340 on base. Freddie Freeman has been able to give you north of a 400 on base. Will Smith has given you nearly a 450 on base. Yeah, Michael Conforto, Max Muncy, you need to pick it up a little bit, but these guys have been able to deal. And then for the Dodgers, this has been an average, a slightly below average bullpen, because you've got Evan Phillips, Michael Kopech out of the fold on the injured list. Kirby Yates now is as well, so that means that you're relying a lot on Tanner Scott, who's been able to give you sub 255 ERA. Alex Vesia, Marlon Brown about a 325, but when you're mixing and matching with Anthony Benda, Ben Casparis, a lot of these long guys, that does make it a little bit difficult. And on the flip side for the Cleveland Guardians, this is just not the same bullpen that we saw 8 seasons ago. Last year, they were number one in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Emmanuel Clase has been better recently, but still hasn't necessarily been overly amazing. You've got Hunter Gaddis, your best closer / reliever on the bereavement list. Cave Smith is giving you a sub 3 ERA. Tim Aaron, though, is up to a north of 4 ERA. Joey Cantillo, these long guys have not necessarily been amazing, and I do think that Dustin May going to be able to go out there, give you a relatively strong performance. I did set my total at 8.3 here at the 8.5. I do like the under with the way that Cleveland is struggling with their offense at home, and I do like the Dodgers on the money line. 969, 970 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles play the St. Louis Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for St. Louis, and Tomoyuki Sugano is on the bump for Baltimore. Baltimore a minus 112 to a minus 118 favorite, between minus 105 to a plus 104. That number on St. Louis 9 is the total. The under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And for Baltimore, I did set them at a plus 116. I'm going to be willing to side with the Cardinals, and I am by no means an Andre Palante stan. 5.6 ERA cuts to 3.2 walks per 9 innings, 4.180 ERA, even higher fielding independent. But Baltimore entered into the day on Monday at 25th in the big leagues in terms of runs per game at 3.8, and you've got a guy in Sugano I just have no faith in whatsoever. 3.08 ERA, 481 fielding independent. He's giving up 1.5 home runs and getting just 4.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. His strikeout numbers have been up a little bit recently, but man, it's just really hard to be able to have a lot of faith in that. And then he's backed up by a bullpen that's in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of ERA as well. Felix Bautista has been really good, but I know other than Brian Baker, you really don't have a lot of reliability here, as you've got a lot of guys that have been posting up a north of a 4 ERA. Gregory Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Ciano Perez, guys like this have been just absolutely horrible. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, it's been a bullpen that's been a little bit hit or miss for them as well, but Brian Elsley is one of the better closers that you're going to find in all baseball. He's been able to supply you with a sub-350 ERA. You've had Jojo Romero have his issues as far as the season, but he seems to be rounding into form. Guy Leahy, Phil Matone have been able to give you sub-3 ERA. And for the Cardinals, you don't necessarily have a ton of power in this lineup, but you've got a lot of guys that just do a nice job of being able to move the line, as Brandon Donovan has been hitting well above a 300. Have a lot of guys sort of in that on-base percentage mode of a 333 to a 346, as you've been able to get that out of Yoel Pozo, the backup catcher, Victor Scott, Lars Nootbaar, Mason Wynn, and for Mr. Nootbaar, 7 home runs thus far this season. Nolan Arenado just down with regards to his numbers in general, so that's been a little bit of an issue. But for the Baltimore Orioles, again, not a lineup that is necessarily overly trustworthy themselves. Cedric Mullins, 10 home runs this season, but we've seen his on-base percentage plummet to about a 320. He's hitting for just a 225. Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday, both of these guys are hitting about a 265, and Ryan O'Hearn hitting a 340, 8 home runs with 425 on base. I actually do like that, but you've had a lot of guys that just have not been able to get the job done for this team. Tyler O'Neill's hitting below the Bedell sign of a 200. Manuel Rivera has actually moved the line. He's giving you a bit of something, but Dylan Carlson, finally has been able to erupt, give you a few home runs overall for the season, though. Hitting a $176, Ryan Mountcastle, Adley Rutschman have been useless for the team as well. So do think that the Cardinals do go out there, find a way to get the job done. I'm willing to lay the money line with them. I set them as the favorite in this spot, and I did set my total at 8.8. So seeing the 9, I'm going to be taking a shot on the under. 971, 972 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers play with the San Francisco Giants. Logan Webb is on the bump for the Giants, and Captain Jack Flaherty is on the bump for Detroit. Detroit is between even money to plus 108 underdogs, and between minus 119 to minus 122. That number on San Francisco, with it being a total of 7 over and under, both at minus 110. And for Flaherty and the Tigers, I'm going to be willing to back them. I set them at a minus 107. Now for Captain Jack Flaherty, the 1.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, very much less than savory. 4.39 ERA. Feeling opponent is relatively in line with that now. He's getting north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but certainly has had his issues all season long. Backed up by a bullpen that, since the All-Star break of the 2024 season, they are number 1 in all baseball. You're able to mix and match with these guys. Brian Herter has been a relatively good long guy, and then you've got a lot of guys that you're able to just go in there, mix and match with, the likes of John Brebbia, Brendan Hennefy, Tyler Holton. All these guys give you a sub-3.5 ERA. Tommy Canley has been very rock solid as well. And for the Detroit Tigers, all of a sudden, this has been an offense that's generating some runs, north of 5.1 runs per contest, with Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter. I'll give you a double-figure amount of homers. For Carpenter, he's up to hitting about a 280. Javi Baez, how about him hitting a 285? Gleyber Torres has been able to move the line. Dylan Dingler hitting a 295. Really, other than Justin Henry, Malloy, and Cole Keith, everyone is doing a pretty solid job in this lineup. And then for the San Francisco Giants, a little bit more hit or miss with them. They're still an above-average team in terms of their run creation. Jungle Lee has been able to north of a 270 for this unit. You've got Wilmer Flores, 10 home runs, about a 325 on base, and Eloy Ramos is up to 9 bobs, give you about 345 on base as well. But Patrick Bailey, Lamont Wade Jr., Luis Matos, all in below the nose line 200. That's a bit of an issue. Getting back Tyler Fitzgerald should help out with that. But William Thomas, hitting a 205 with 5 home runs, just has not been tremendous there. Now for the Giants, this team is number 1 in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA. You've got so many guys that are just able to come in and hold down the fort, as you've been able to have Tristan Beck, Spencer Bivens be relatively good long guys, and then Eric Miller, Randy Rodriguez, Camilo Duvall, Tyler Rogers, Hayden Birdsong being moved to the starter's role, by the way, but all those guys, ace up 250 ERA as well. But for Logan Webb, just always have an issue with his home run roads, but it's a career 268 home ERA with 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 4.08 ERA on the road, giving up closer to 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. So I do think that this is an interesting spot where the Detroit Tigers do find a way to get the job done. Feel like they should be the slight favorite, so like the Tigers on the money line, and a man on the over. So my total is 7.3, 923, 924 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox are on the road. They're facing off against the New York Mets. Tyler McGill is on the bump for the Mets, and Jonathan Cannon on the bump for the White Sox. And the White Sox between plus 215 to plus 227 underdogs, minus 255 to minus 267. That number on the Mets, 8 is the total. The under is minus 115. Over is minus 105. And I set the Mets at a minus 258 on the money line. We're right now seeing a lot of places without run line prices, but if you're looking to lay a run half in the few spots I'm finding it at with the Mets, you're going to be laying in that neighborhood about a minus 122, and I'd be willing to do so. I set mine at a minus 128. For Jonathan Cannon, he's making the start after a few days ago. He was unable to due to back tightness, and Jonathan Cannon overall has been solid this season. He's not going to get you like a ton of strikeouts, but he's been able to work on that. He's still giving you right in the neighborhood about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The ERA is a little bit above a 4, but if you look at the fielding dependent, there should be a little bit of positivity to this. I think that he's going to do a nice job holding it down. He's only been giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings. Again, you do have a little bit of trepidation with regards to the back tightness, but I think that he should be able to go out there, give a relatively good start, and then for Tyler McGill, he's been able to go out there and he has been really able to light it up in terms of the strikeouts. His strikeouts per 9 rate is north of 11. Now, that does come with a little bit over 4 walks per 9 innings, but he's also not giving up any homers as well. 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and this is a Mets lineup that has been pretty rock solid all season long. Francisco Lindor has been able to give you a 9+ home runs along with Pete Alonso. Both of these guys doing a really good job of being able to find a way on base. Lunanel Acuna is not necessarily give you a ton of power. As a matter of fact, I think they still stuck on 0 home runs, but does a nice job being able to move line. Juan Soto, I know that a lot of people like to hate on him. Still 363 on base with 8 home runs. I recognize that's not what you paid for, but it's not like he's been completely awful. And Brett Baty has been able to give you 6 home runs as well. Mark Vientos starting to pick it up after a rough start to the season, and this team has one of the best bullpens you're going to find in all baseball. For the Mets, a top 6 team with regards to bullpen ERAs. You've got Oscar Barzobin along with Reed Garrett, both give you a sub 150 ERA. Edwin Diaz starting to round into form after a little bit of a rough start to the season. Max Kranick has been able to give you some good innings as well, so really like what these guys are able to bring to the table. And for the Chicago White Sox, this has been one of the more rough bullpens in the big leagues, as you've had Frazier Allard be dealing with injuries, so that has hurt them a little bit. You've actually had Mike Vasil be one of the better long guys in all of baseball thus far this season, a sub-3 ERA, so we'll give him a little bit of credit where it is due. But Jordan Leisure is giving you up north of a 4 ERA, Brandon Iser, Cam Bouger, both of these guys are north of 5 ERA, and for the White Sox, you're just not getting a lot of power out of this team. Now, the good news is you've got Andrew Benintendi back in the fold, who was able to hit 5 home runs early on during the season, and Mike Tauchman should be able to help this team move the line a little bit. And I will say, you've been able to have Chase Meredith be able to give you about a 300 average, so yay, barely there, but Luis Robert, Andrew Vaughn, both hitting about a $190 with 5 home runs, and Andrew Vaughn right now give you 218 on base. Less than savory there. Michael A. Taylor has been able to about a $194. Matt Theus has not done a great job moving the line either. And for the Chicago White Sox team, it's just going to be a case where I don't think that they're going to generate anything whatsoever after Tyler McGill, which is why I'm going to be willing to lay this run line. I did set mine at a minus 128 and did set my total at 7.6. So right now, seeing that 8, I'm going to be in on the under. 975, 976 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals are going to be playing us to the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and they're on to a to-be-determined starter going up against Brady Singer, so this game is completely off the board. I'm right now seeing an opener at FanDuel with the Royals at a minus 104, minus 112 on the Reds, and a total of 8.5 over and under, both at minus 110. When I was looking, it was showing Daniel Lynch as perhaps the potential starter, which would probably signify a bullpen game with Daniel Lynch being a little bit of a bulk guy. He might start, he might be coming in a few innings, but if you were to get that, I did set the Royals at a minus 112 on the money line, so I'd be willing to lay that, and I did set my total at 8.2. I'm looking at the under, and the big reason why is if you do get some sort of a Royals bullpen game with, say, Daniel Lynch as being a little bit of a long guy, this Royals bullpen has been tremendous. Top 6 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Daniel Lynch himself has actually been able to supply a sub-2 ERA, so it's been a really good start to the season for him. And then you've got Carlos Estevez, Lucas Sercich, who have been able to mix and match in the 8th and 9th inning. Steven Cruz has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. John Schreiber has been pretty solid in relief as well. What the Royals need is a little bit more offense, as Vinny Pasquantino right now leading the way with 8 home runs. You've had Miguel Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr. both at about a 300 with 5 home runs apiece, but even though you've got a guy like a Drew Waters, Kyle Osbell, both hitting north of a 275, just not a lot of power out of anyone else. Kevon Biggio, Hunter Renfroe have been disappointments as veterans said, but Cincinnati Reds, this is actually a top 8 team in terms of run creation on the road. Much of that is due to the 24th spot that they put up against the Baltimore Orioles a little bit earlier in the season. Ellie De La Cruz has been rock solid, being able to give the team 9 home runs this season. Not a lot of power on these guys, though. You are starting to see a pair of guys in TJ Friedel coupled with Gavin Lux, both hitting north of a 285. Spencer Steer just not giving you too much whatsoever. He and Matt McLean hitting below a 225, and you've had McLean be able to supply the team with 6 home runs thus far this season. And when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds team, it's been a bullpen that's been hit or miss. Prior to their series against the Chicago Cubs, they were looking rock solid, but then they had everyone banged around like a piñata. You've been able to have Lyon Richardson actually give you a sub-2 ERA. Tony Santillan, Taylor Rogers, they're both at a sub-3 as well, but Graham Ashcraft starting to look like a load of Ashcraft. Whenever you have Eddie and Gabo out there, that's been not great, to say the least, as well. So very interesting circumstance. If you could get a Royals money line of a minus 110 or better, look in there. And then at a 8.5, I'm looking at the under. 977, 978 on the betting board. It is the Boston Red Sox on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers. We do know that Aaron Savali is on the bump for the Brewers. Right now, it's old to be determined on the bump for the Red Sox, so this game is off the board. CBS was showing Cooper Criswell a little bit before. I would have to think that this is going to be like a little bit of a mix and match game, something like that. But if you do get Cooper Criswell, I set the Brewers at a minus 118 on the money line, and I'd be looking at an 8.5 or higher to the under. I would be looking at an 8 or less to the over, as I did set my total at an 8.4. Right now, really not seeing any openers out there. Lone one is at FanDuel. Brewers at a minus 120 plus 102 on the Red Sox with a total of 8.5. If we could get down to a minus 118, I would be looking at that Brewers money line, because for Aaron Savali, I think that he's going to do a pretty rock solid job for this Brewers team. It's always very hit or miss as a pitcher. Like, there will be one year where he's getting a whole bunch of strikeouts, but he's getting super unlucky. The next year, he's going to be giving out a whole bunch of walks, but is somehow weaseling his way through situations. And his 2 appearances thus far this season. First of all, he's 7 runs given up in 7 innings, so that's been a little bit less than tremendous. I do think that he's going to start to round into form, as right now he's given up a whopping 4 home runs in those 7 innings, so that's a little bit less than amazing. But what else has been less than amazing is Boston Red Sox with regards to hitting ever since they lost Alex Bregman, so that's not great to say the least. You've got Jaron Duran doing a nice job moving the line. He has been able to hit for about a 280, and then you got Carlos Narvaez hitting darn near 300. Rafael Devers has been able to give you double-figure amount of bombs. He's up to a north of 400 on base. Weiler Abreu, 11-plus home runs, hitting for about a 250. So, overall, the lineup looks solid. Abraham Toro has been able to give you some good at-bats as well, though Christian Campbell, he's starting to regress along Trevor Story. Trevor Story's been useless. 269 on base and just not hitting for power. And then for the Brewers, not a lot of power out of this lineup either. Jackson Chirinos up to 8 home runs, but just a 273 on base. You've had 9 bombs out of Christian Yelich, but he's barely hitting above the Mendoza line of 200. These guys like Joey Ortiz, Caleb Duran in the infield have been relatively rough, though Durbin has been looking a little bit better recently. Sal Frelick is giving you north of a 350 on base. William Contreras, not a lot of power, but a 360 on base. And Rhys Hoskins, about a 385 on base. For the Red Sox, this has been a pretty solid bullpen this season. Not going to call it amazing, but Brendan Bernardino, Roldis Chapman are both able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Greg Weissert has been able to give you a sub-350 ERA himself. Justin Slayton has been able to hold down the fort recently as well. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers, Yo Payamps, Elvis Figueroa were so good in this bullpen a season ago, have been just so awful, and I'm pretty sure that Payamps got sent down to the minors, so that's been not great to say the least. Nick Mears has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and Abner Uribe has been very rock solid, but we've seen some regression with the likes of Brian Hudson, Jared Koenig, and company, so these guys have been trying to mix and match in the bullpen. It's been a little bit less than savory, but I just don't know what you're going to be able to get if you do indeed get Cooper Criswell, as he's someone that last season was good at not walking guys, but he didn't have a lot of strikeout stuff, and even if you do get Criswell, you're going to be seeing a lot of the bullpen here as well, so circumstance where I would be willing to take a shot on an 8.5 under or the Brewers minus 118 or better. Looking at them on the money line, and we're at things up from 929, 930 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners playoffs to the Washington Nationals. Mitchell Parker is on the bump for the Nats. It's all to be determined on the bump for the Seattle Mariners. So this game is off the board. It was looking like Logan Evans should go here, and FanDuel does have an opener. Minus 144 on the Mariners, plus 122 on Washington with a total of 8 over and under, both at minus 110. I'd be willing to take a shot on that 8 over, and I'd be willing to take a shot on the Mariners, and I would take the run line. Right now, you'll find that at a plus 140. For Mitchell Parker, I just have no faith in this guy whatsoever. He had been getting so lucky for so long, and now he's just getting lit up like a Christmas tree. 3+ runs allowed in each out of his last 5 starts, 4.39 ERA with 5.9 strikeouts and 4.1 walks per 9 innings. And you've got a guy in Evans that has a 3.33 ERA, but that does come with a 4.93 fielding dependent, allowing 1.7 home runs and 3 walks per 9 innings. But the bullpen of the Mariners is just so much better, as right now they are posting up a 3.43 ERA. That's in the top 10 in the big leagues. Gabe Spire has been able to give you some good innings as a long guy. Things didn't necessarily pan out for Taylor Cicado this season, but Andres Munoz continues to be one of the best closers that you're going to find in all baseball since Matt Brash has come off the injury list. He's been pretty rock solid, and I have a Seattle Mariners team that does rank at the top 5 in the American League in terms of runs per game. Obviously, their offense does get a little bit diminished at home with the way that this ballpark plays, as you've got Rowdy Tellez giving you 8 home runs along Dylan Moore, though I will say for Tellez, just a 272 on base. But how about Kyle Raleigh? 17 home runs, 370 on base. He has been tremendous. J.P. Crawford is moving the line. He's giving you about a 380 on base. We've got a few guys like a Luke Raley and company that haven't necessarily given you a ton, but Julio Rodriguez, after a slow start to the season, he's starting to pick it up as well. And then Ore Polanco, right around about 10 home runs. He's starting to regress a little bit with regards to that average, but still doing a nice job being able to put bat to ball. And then for the Washington Nationals, how about some good wood from James Wood? 13 home runs, about 380 on base. You've been able to have C.J. Abrams do a nice job moving the line, 350 on base, 8 home runs. Dylan Cruz is now giving you 7 home runs, but he and Josh Bell, both hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, has been less than savory. Just have not been able to get a lot out of those veteran bats. Alex Call, though, about a 380 on base. When he's been out there, he's been pretty rock solid. And Nathaniel Lowe, he is up to 8 home runs, but hitting at 225. But again, Nationals' worst bullpen in terms of ERA in the National League. You've got a trio of guys that are actually halfway reliable. Jackson Rutledge, Kyle Finnegan, Cole Henry, all be able to fly a sub-3 ERA. And ever since they called upon Andrew Chafin, only a 7-inning sample size, he's given up 1 run in 7 innings. So that helps you out a little bit. But when you've got the likes of Ore Lopez, Eduardo Salazar, Jose Ferrer. These guys give me north of a 6 ERA. That just makes things untenable. So as long as I can get this sort of a money line / run line price, I'm going to be in on the Mariners. Personally, I'll be looking at the run line and made my total in 8.1, so I hit the 8. I like the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the Visa Family Podcast. Big thanks to William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, whatever you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter / X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire on whatever you'd like to on this podcast, 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.